Good afternoon, Upper Sixth. We are on video 3. How exciting. And what a lovely question. This is great for those of you that have been practicing your calculations. Whenever you can see using the data, if there's numbers in that case study, you'd better do some calculations. Hopefully you'll do the correct ones. We've got sales and profit forecasting in here, so I'm hoping you'll do one of each. However, if you struggle with the formulas, you have that brain block, or however you want to phrase it, don't panic, don't cry, don't skip the question, because you ain't ever coming back to it, let's face it. Just do some calculations and answer the question. Even if it's basic subtraction or addition or something, you're not going to get full marks, but you get a damn sight more marks than you will with a blank page. So those of you that are classing yourself as weak with maths and business isn't hard, you just need to practice. Do some more practice because it's only early March and the exam's in May. So you've got plenty of time. So just embrace those areas of improvement and you'll be fine. Those of you that are A-level mathematicians that are watching this, my worst mathematicians in business are those that do A-level maths. And that's because generally they're a bit cocky and they think that the maths in business is really easy. So what they do is they write all the maths down really, really quickly and they don't interpret it properly sometimes. Okay, so I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I'm hoping that you call me out on it this summer. But the maths is not hard. Just remember the formulas and you'll be fine. And if not, do some maths and answer the question. Worst that's going to happen, you're going to get half marks. And make sure you keep to your timing and don't just stare at the page because you've got a maths question. Using the data, use the data and interpret the data, because using the data is not just showing it, is it? Assess the likely value. So we know what the start of the hook is of this and this. Yeah, so that's actually an and in some ways because it says A&D. Profit forecasting for a company like BritWear. Okay, so we've got this classic like in the middle of it. So we're talking fast fashion in their market segment. And since we've got their financial data, it will be BritWear, won't it? So we understand that. So it's for a company like them. So when we see for a company, we're thinking of their business aims and objectives. We're looking in the case study and we want to find some evidence of what they're trying to achieve. You can't just link to sales and profits in the future because everyone's going to be happy. So who are they? Well, we know who the owners are because it tells us in the case study. And you know, we know some figures are there and we know that things are pretty good in the marketplace. However, we're going to question the reliability of this data. It's historic data. Things might change. Just because things look like they're getting better doesn't mean they'll be better in the future. You've just done a Boston Matrix question at this point. Don't forget that you've done the Boston Matrix question. Don't forget you did the 8 marker with the supply and demand diagram in there with that curve shifting to the right. Less is left and more is the other way, right? So you know certain parts of that product portfolio are growing faster than the others. You've just done a Boston Matrix question. Maybe you could bring some of that language in. Maybe not. Maybe you're just going to answer this in a basic way and move on. So there's our case studies again. There's a number of them there. We've gone through a couple of them already. And remember, we've been told which data extract to use. Again, these are simplified numbers. You won't get overly complex numbers in the exam paper, but these ones are very, very simple. And they're from Dobby's interpretation of BritWear. They're not true. So first of all, we need to do calculations. Now, you do not do this in the case study booklet. You do it at the top of the exam paper. Okay, so in the question, the first thing you do is you write down all your workings, very neat, please, because neat is quicker than you chucking 1,000 bits of quantitative information on a page and hoping it all falls in place. Work thoroughly, work neatly, and right at the top of the page. The examiners will not see the question booklet, sorry, the case study booklet. So if you write all your formulas on the case study booklet, they won't see it. And if you put the wrong answer in the middle of your essay, you've got it wrong. If you show your workings at the top of the page, this gives the examiner at least the chance to see where you've gone wrong, possibly considering error carried forward if you've made one mistake. And it's so much better to see that at the top of the page. So do your calculations, have your source booklet maybe to your left, depends if you're left or right-handed. I'm right-pawed. And then you have your answer booklet next to you. Write your calculations and answers at the top of the page, and then you can start your normal 12-mark structure. You've got to work quickly. These financial-based essays are so easy because you're describing how you've calculated stuff, and your counter arguments are just about questioning the reliability of the data using context from the case study. They're not hard. Some people don't like maths. Some people don't practice enough with maths. Don't let that be you. So thinking about, this is a percentage change question, really. We're thinking about working out forecasting. And in the case study, we've got 3 years worth of figures. So we're moving from 1 year to the next, and then that one to the next. We're doing 2 calculations, really. And then we're working out maybe a possible average. Then we can carry that forward and say, however, in the future, if this trend continues, and we can actually work that out. So possibly 3 calculations, very short ones, for each of the turnover and profit figures. So here's one I prepared earlier. And yes, they're simplistic figures, but how easy is this to write down and for you to calculate? Okay, and we've got 20% there. We've got 16.67. You'll notice I've rounded to 2 decimal places there, and I was too lazy to bother up there. Well, it came to a round number, that's why. 2 decimal places, unless stipulated differently in the question. If the calculate question, normally in paper 1 or 2, if it says to 2 decimal places, they're looking for you to present. If it says to round the number, they're checking your maths. There's got to be a certain amount of maths in these papers. So if they tell you to round it, they're doing it, or they're not going to give you the marks. And if you don't do 2 decimal places, if it tells you, then they won't give you that final mark. Here, I'm just on autopilot because that's the best way of doing it. Didn't do it up there, didn't need to. So we've then plus divided by 2 to get the average, and we've got the average growth. If this trend continues, we'll have that much. Okay? Pretty easy so far. Then we do the same for the profit figure. That was very difficult because the average of 50 each year is 50. Excuse me for not writing the formula down for that one. If this trend continues, we've got that much. We've got roughly 4 marks out of 12, roughly. Okay, it's not a magic formula for the marking, but roughly we'll say. Sometimes they actually write that in the examiner report and mark scheme, sorry. But the rest of it is from writing a normal essay. Now, for you to get these numbers out of the case study and to quickly knock these calculations out, I'm estimating this is taking you 5 to 6 minutes. Total estimate, we all work differently. Now, this is a 15-minute question, and therefore, if I've spent 5 or 6 minutes doing this, I need to be mindful I've got 9 or 10 minutes to write it up. So, normal P structure with a however on the end of it. It's a 12 marker. We're looking for extended chains of argument to get us to the top of level 4, but you need 3 chains of argument to get you into level 4. We're not aiming for perfection. We're aiming for level 4 and completing the paper and getting it right. So sales and profit forecasting are valuable. I wonder why I use valuable in the sentence. So BritWear strategic planning and financial management doesn't really do a lot so far. Starts the question off. Excuse me. With a consistent upward trajectory in turnover, that's interpretation, averaging 18.34%, top level application, growth rate over the past 2 years, forecasting allows BritWear to anticipate future financial performance and make informed decisions regarding resource allocation, theory, investment, and expansion. By recognizing trends and projected sales, BritWear can estimate that if this trend continues, remember it was an if, their turnover could reach approximately that figure. All that is rewording the calculations. And because there's loads of evidence already in there, I'm not going to put an extra line on here for evidence. I'm going to make sure that that's in my chain of argument. And I've interpreted the evidence to death here because we've, it could if it continues. And we've got analysis in there because of the numbers, as well as talking about why it's of value. However, forecasts are based on past trends and may not account for sudden market shifts or unexpected events, which could lead to inaccuracies in projections. Now, this to me is a bit theory based, and it's not really in context. That's literally out of a textbook. Yeah. So I would be looking for a little bit of context here. However, there could be sudden market shifts as seen in COVID. Yeah. Okay. Sudden market shifts. So just put something in that's a bit contextualized, and at least it's not just abstract waffle. We need this, however, to question the reliability of this data. Okay, the data that was presented in the case study does not include COVID, so you just drop it in. It could be that we talk about the inflation that's going on. That could be one of our defaults this season. And this could be unexpected changes in oil price impacting inflation. Make sure you contextualize your howevers. This is not contextualized. It's very theory-based. Profit forecasting is valuable for assessing the financial health and viability of new projects and initiatives. Yeah, okay, well, sort of, okay, straight out of the textbook. Again, a bit boring, really. Yeah. And if we reflect on the one up here, this first bit does introduce this, but it's a bit repetitive. But there's not a huge amount there, so you get away with it. Using the profit figures and recognizing the constant, over a couple of years, 50% increase in profits year on year, BritWear can forecast that their profits may reach that number if the trend continues. This level of insight is invaluable for evaluating the potential success of investments, guiding dividend policies. They've got shareholders, everyone. I use the forms of business link, and influencing investor relations. Okay, if they want investors. Never know. Could be thinking about it. I wonder what the 20 marker is. However, relying on historical profit margins assumes conditions remain constant, ignoring the potential for significant market changes that can impact profitability. Again, I know you've got it, but again, that is abstract. Yes, it is the counter argument to that. Yes, it is true, but wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if this was contextualized? Not with the same, however, COVID. Down here, maybe we could have the inflation one. Or it could be, from your research theme, we could have a bit of Porter's five forces from that new threat of a new entrant, Sheen, rapid growth of market share. Okay, could drop that in there. It's a 12 marker. Feel free to bring in your own knowledge as long as you're using the case study. See if we can answer the question. Overall, now I'm not going to write all these bold points in, by the way. We're just doing this for structure. Overall, the value, look in the question, of sales and profit forecasting for BritWear is substantial. Okay, I've answered the question. That's meant to be an A. Enabling the company to underpin strategic decision-making and financial planning. Great, thanks. Yeah. Now, let's see if we get the justification mark. My justification for this is that without such forecasting, what lovely words. I'm now considering the alternative. The alternative is not using forecasting. BritWear could lack the data-driven foundations required for effective business strategy, potentially leading to overproduction or missed opportunities. Well, isn't that a shame? Isn't that a shame that as a Dalmatian, I don't understand the value of contextualization? Now, yes, without forecasting, that's a very, again, theoretical justification. The standards clearly say contextualization throughout, and that means in all of your points and your conclusion and your justification, and probably the mops I should be writing. So wouldn't it be overproduction of formal wear or overprotection of formal wear and missed opportunities with sustainable footwear. That's all that's needed. Just add in a bit of context, please, and we might move a bit further towards the top end of that level 4. We've got some mops in there. I'm not going to go through all of them. You can pause and basically read them yourself. But when you're talking about a mop, you're thinking about something that might change in the future. And I'll just go through the market. So in the market, we could be looking at other companies in the market that might be in competition with BritWear. I've got Primark in my mind, and maybe I'm thinking they're an inferior good. Maybe some consumers shift towards budget brands, and we know that some of their prices have gone up because we drew a supply and demand diagram about it. Okay, market share, market growth. I've just done a Boston Matrix question. Maybe that's still in my head, and I'm going to use that in my mops. You only need one of these mops, and if you can't think about a mops that's in context that actually makes sense, don't write down some abstract waffle. Do yourself a favor, stop writing the 12 marker and move on to the 20. You ain't going to get marks for sticking down a default answer that you just happen to write well in one of your practice essay questions in class or for revision. Abstract's not going to cut it. This is in context because it mentions one of their competitors, and maybe that gets you another mark or so. Okay, context is king. The whole point of this video, really, other than getting you to practice your calculations, please, and how easy are these P paragraphs to write with a bit of quantitative data in them. You've got to make sure those howevers and your conclusion are contextualized, or you're not going to get the marks that you deserve, or maybe you will. Hope that was useful. 20 marker next. Hold tight. Maybe go for a quick comfort break and a coffee.